Hello and welcome to our video. I'm Bill and today we're going to show you how to replace your own garage door torsion springs. In this particular case, this door has a broken spring, as we'll show you right here, how the spring is separated in two pieces. And first we're going to walk you through some basic steps, some do's and don'ts. One of the first things that we're going to do is we're going to unplug the garage door opener. Okay, now that we've got the garage door opener unplugged, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to disconnect the door from the opener by pulling the operator emergency release, which is this item right here on this particular unit on this Genie. So we're going to pull this, which frees the door from the opener, so there's no chance of the door accidentally being open. When you go to inquire for new springs, we need to know what size is the door. So we're going to run a tape measure across the door. Halfway point is 8. So we're going to end up with a 16-foot wide door. Then we're going to measure the height of the door. And it doesn't have to be exact, just within an inch basically. And in this case, the door is 84 inches or 7 feet tall. So we have a 16 by 7 door. The next thing we need to know is what the construction of the door is. In this case, this door is wood. It's a wood panel door. It's 8 panels across, if you count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's 4 sections tall, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it has a row of glass in it. This is all information that's helpful for you to have when you go to acquire your new garage door springs. We're going to measure the broken spring first. So I'm going to measure 1/2 of the spring, which in this case is basically 8 1/4 inches. And I'm going to measure the second half of the spring. And we're only measuring the spring, not the pieces that go in the end of the spring. And this end of the spring is 16 1/2 inches. So basically, it's a 24 3/4. We'll round it up to, it's a 25-inch long spring. The next thing we need to know about the spring, there's a couple ways to go about doing, but we need to know what the inside diameter of the spring is. So in this case, I'm going to hold the spring in this position. I'm going to put the tape measure right here. And this particular spring happens to be a 2-inch inside diameter. Now, I can also look, you won't be able to see on the camera, but I can also look at this spring cone right here. And in the casting, it says that it is a 2.0 S, and that means that it's a 2-inch inside diameter spring, and this happens to be the stationary cone. This is the winding cone. Now the most important part, we need to determine the wire size of the spring. Now most of you at home aren't going to have a spring gauge like I do, so you're going to be using a tape measure or a ruler. And when you use a tape measure or a ruler, you want to start out on the 2-inch mark. Don't start out on the end of the tape because it won't be accurate. So I'm going to start out on the 2-inch mark, and I'm going to measure across this spring. I'm going to measure for 10 coils and then 20 coils. So if I count across here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, this spring comes up to 2 3/8, which equivalated in a decimal is going to be a 234 spring wire. Because I have a 2-inch inside diameter spring, it's 25 inches long, and the wire size is 0.234 thousandths of an inch. That's the most important part, because one size up or one size down and your door won't work properly. We're going to measure the spring that's not broken. Now there's some things you need to be aware of. First of all, the spring, when it's wound, is under heavy torque. It's very powerful. It's very dangerous. So we're going to approach this spring with caution because this spring is still wound. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to measure the width of the spring. And this particular spring comes up to 27 inches. But this spring is wound. And whenever you wind the spring, it always measures longer than what it actually is. If you'll notice, this spring over here measured 25 inches, but there's almost a 3-inch gap in it. That's how much the spring elongated when it was wound. So essentially, this spring here, since it's measuring 27, is right about a 25-inch spring. And I'm going to measure 10 coils. And probably it's the same size spring, but not always. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And it is the same size spring. it comes up to 2 3/8, which again is a .234 wire spring. I need a pair of two .234 wire, 2-inch ID, 25-inch long springs. And I need a right-hand spring and I need a left-hand spring, which will explain it. I'm going to show you the difference between the two springs. If you look at the end of the spring right here, you'll notice that this spring starts right here and winds this way around the spring. Or better yet, if I hold the spring this way and I follow the spring around, this spring winds counterclockwise. This would be what's called a left-hand spring. You'll also notice at the end of it, although this isn't always accurate, but it's marked in black. Now let's look at the right-hand spring. The right-hand spring, when we look at it, the spring wire goes around this way, okay? And if we turn it to you this way, and we follow it around, it goes this way, or clockwise. This is the right-hand spring. It's also red on the ends, and if you notice, if you follow it, it starts right here, and it goes around to your right. So this is your right-hand spring. Typically, on most garage doors, if we're standing inside the garage like we are right now, and we're facing out towards the street, the red spring, or the right-hand spring, actually mounts the opposite of what you would think, and it mounts on the left side of the door.